Perfect. So welcome everyone. We are here to talk all about paid experience with impact, which is really what our co-op program is at UBC Engineering. So my name is Erin, my pronouns are she, her, and I am the Student Recruitment Officer at the UBC Vancouver campus. But I also represent both campuses in my work. So if you have any questions about either campus, I'm here to help with that. Both UBC campuses are built on lands that have been home to Indigenous peoples for thousands of years. I would like to acknowledge the land that UBC has built its Vancouver campus on, which we work, learn, connect, and innovate, is the unceded, ancestral, and traditional territory of the Musqueam peoples. Our Okanagan campus is situated in the territory of the Syilx Okanagan Nation and their peoples. And I'd also like to acknowledge that you're joining us today from many places near and far, and would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands that you're on now. So we are using Zoom. I'm sure many of you have used Zoom before. We just wanted to add a few notes just to make sure that you can make the most of your session today. So if you are experiencing any audio issues, you can just leave Zoom and come back. That often resolves it. You should see in the bottom left-hand corner a little microphone that will let you update any, whether you're using a headset or your computer audio or whatever that may be. So that's also where you can kind of fiddle around and hopefully get that sound working for you. As this is a webinar, you won't be able to unmute yourself or turn on your camera. So you shouldn't have to worry about either of those features. Now this session is designed for you, so please feel free to submit your questions through the Q&A box. You should see a Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We do ask that you only submit your question once, so that we have an opportunity to get to it. And as we have lots of folks joining us today, please also upvote the questions so that you can get those questions that you want to see answered moved up to the top of the list. We also have lots of links available in the resources tab, which you'll be able to see at the bottom of your screen. It looks like a bunch of pages stacked on top of each other, and it is resources, which are just links that we've provided to give you access to anything that you may see pop up in the presentation today, or any of your common questions that you might have about like application deadlines and things like that. So in that resources tab, it will tell you that it'll give you a warning that you're leaving Zoom, but it won't close Zoom or anything like that. It'll just open a link in a new browser window for you. So don't worry, you're not going to be exiting the meeting. Feel free to open as many links as you'd like. You can save them for later to get to. And you may see some relevant links pop at the bottom of your screen, so feel free to click on those throughout the presentation as well. Closed captioning is available, so you can enable this by clicking on the closed captioning button at the bottom of your screen as well. And finally, if you're not able to stay with us for the entire session, a recording of this full session will be shared on our YouTube channel in a few days. So I'm joined by several of my colleagues today. We have Jennifer, who will be presenting and introducing herself very shortly. You will see Salani answering some of the questions in the Q&A today as well. I also have one of my student staff, Juliana, will be answering some of those questions in the Q&A throughout the session today as well. And students that you'll see later on screen will be Anraj and Sydney, and they are going to share a little bit more about their own co-op experiences, what it's been like so far, and you'll get to ask them some questions that you may have for students who have done co-op as well. So think about those, and we will be asking them questions at the Q&A at the end. So I just want to add a couple more slides of just a brief kind of really basic about UBC Engineering before we jump into the co-op session, which I know you're all very excited for today. So I just want to mention that if you do choose to join us at UBC, you'll be joining a university which is globally recognized for its excellence in teaching and research, as well as its global impact. World Universities rankings such as Times Higher Education ranks UBC as #2 in Canada overall and within the top 50 universities or top 5% of all universities in the world. And we're #1 in Canada for International Outlook. When we look at UBC Engineering specifically for the last few years, Maclean's has ranked UBC Engineering the #2 engineering program in Canada based on program and research reputation. We're also home to the largest co-op program in Western Canada, where we have fantastic employer partnerships to set you up for success and what we're here to learn all about today. So if you do join us at UBC, you'll be joining one of the top ranked universities in the world. Now, I alluded to this already, but there are two campuses that students can study at. Our degree at both campuses is called the Bachelor of Applied Science. You can study at our Okanagan campus in Kelowna or at the Vancouver campuses, or at the Vancouver campus, sorry. The campuses are about a 4.5 hour drive apart or about an hour flight, and they have a quite different feel as well. So while you have access to many of the same services, and our co-op program itself is actually the same across both campuses have a different feel. So we really encourage you to explore which one might be the best fit for you. Now, no matter which campus you start at, you'll start in our foundational year where you'll learn about things like engineering design, chemistry, physics, math, and English before continuing into the program and completing your degree at that campus. The Okanagan campus has 5 engineering programs, and at the Vancouver campus, there are 14 engineering disciplines to choose from. Again, program selection doesn't happen until the end of your first year, so you would do that foundational first year and start in your program in the second year. Now, this is something that we aren't able to talk too much about today, but I know we get lots of questions on, so I just wanted to mention a few of the things that students at UBC Engineering have to look forward to. So from the very start, you'll be exposed to hands-on design projects where you work in teams with other first-year students. You'll have courses year after year that build on those project-based team learning experiences, culminating in your final year with capstone design projects. You can gain research experience in a variety of different ways throughout your degree. You might choose to pursue a minor or a dual degree, which would allow a focus of a secondary area of study. You might consider going abroad to either work, research, or study. You can find your passion maybe by joining a design team where you can create different projects outside of the classroom. Of course, co-op, which we'll be talking about today to get that paid work experience. And of course, we would love to talk more about all of these. We have lots of other presentations that have already happened and that will be happening later this fall. So in the resources tab, you can always check out those links and see the past presentations that we have or sign up for any of our new events coming up. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer to take over and tell you all of the amazing things about co-op.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited to be here to talk to you today about the co-op program. My name is Jennifer Eberly. The pronouns I go with are she, her, and I'm a manager in the Applied Science Co-op program. I really look forward to speaking to you today about the Applied Science Co-op program, specifically what it is, how it works, and the benefits of participating in the program. By joining the program, you can start building your engineering career while you're still a student. I've worked in the program for over 12 years, and many of my students have told me that participating in the co-op program was the best part of their university experience. Okay. So paid experience, you might be wondering, well, why do I need to be, maybe worrying about this now? Well, UBC Engineering provides an outstanding classroom-based education that's enriched with lots of hands-on learning experiences, much of which Erin talked about with all the design team-based projects that you get to work on. However, applying this knowledge in a real-world setting is essential. And one of the best ways to do so is through paid work experience as a student. This not only reinforces what you've learned in the classroom, but it also allows you to bring valuable insights and knowledge that you've gained from the workplace back into your studies. Gaining this practical experience helps you discover your interests. It also can help you shape your career path after graduation. The AppSci Co-op program is an ideal way to gain this experience and make the most of your education. Okay. Some of you might not necessarily be familiar with co-op, so I do want to take the opportunity just to describe a little bit what the co-op program is. So co-op is essentially short for cooperative education. So cooperative education is a structured co-curricular program that combines traditional classroom-based education with practical hands-on work experience that you acquire through industry. Both UBC and our employer partners are essentially working together to create career-ready graduates. At UBC, the cooperative education program is an optional program that students can choose to pursue while completing their degree. As Erin mentioned earlier in the presentation, UBC does have the largest co-op program in Western Canada, which is mainly comprised of science co-op and the engineering co-op program. The Applied Science Co-op program has been in existence since 1980, meaning that we've developed an extensive and really robust network of employer partners who recognize it as the best source of top engineering student talent. Students that have participated in our program have secured work terms with top-tier companies. They've gained experience across diverse industries, and some of who have also been able to take part in international opportunities. We also offer dedicated support and mentorship to help students succeed in securing work terms and then exceeding expectations in the workplace. Okay. So you might think, why would I want to choose co-op? What's in it for me? Well, there's lots of really great benefits for participating in the co-op program. As I mentioned previously, it really gives you that opportunity to apply what you've been learning in the classroom. So using that knowledge and skill that you've gained from your academic coursework to actually real world problems in industry. It also gives you that opportunity to gain really valuable hands-on experience. You get the opportunity to work with a variety of different employers within different industries where in addition, 1 year of your co-op experience can be counted towards the 4 years of work experience required for registration as a professional engineer. The other great thing about participating in the co-op program is you get job search support. So you're not participating in this program alone. You have a really great support network. You're going to be assigned a dedicated co-op career advisor that's going to help you learn, navigate, and then master the job search process. Additionally, the co-op program also gives you the opportunity to start building your professional network. You get to meet and connect with professionals in your field who are then going to be there to help support you as you grow and build your future career. Most importantly, I know this is a really important factor for students, is that all co-op experiences have to be paid experiences. So this gives you a great opportunity to make some money to help pay for your education while gaining valuable work experience at the same time. I know a lot of students do this in order to help fund their education because it can be quite expensive. As well, the co-op program is a great way for you to build skills and confidence in your abilities. It gives you the opportunity to strengthen your current skills, learn new skills, and then gain confidence as a professional and in what you ultimately want to do after graduation. And then last but not least, for students that successfully complete the co-op program by completing 4 4-month work terms, you'll earn a co-op designation on your degree parchment. This shows employers that you're not only graduating with a degree, but you're graduating with work experience. Okay. So here's just a really high-level overview of how the co-op program works. Students in the co-op program essentially alternate between academic terms spent in the classroom and terms spent out working in industry in the workplace. For many of our students, their first scheduled work term takes place the summer following the second year of engineering study. So it's really important that students get that foundational year under their belt before they start, jumping into a co-op work term. As well, your final work term must be completed before you enter the final year of your academic study, mainly because you're going to have, for most students, a year-long capstone project that you need to participate, and you have to end your degree on an academic term. As Erin also mentioned earlier on in the presentation, all engineering disciplines on both campuses of UBC are eligible to participate in the co-op program. And you might put 2 and 2 together. So if you're not studying and you're working, that means it's probably going to add a little extra time to your overall program length. And that's correct. So by participating in the co-op program, it will add 1 year to your Bachelor's of Applied Science degree. But you end up graduating with a degree as well as 16 to 20 months of relevant technical work experience. Students have the option to join the program at either their second or their third year of study. And all students that have a sessional average of at least 65% are eligible to participate. So here's just a really, just a graphic, kind of just to show you what a typical schedule or a schedule a student may follow in the co-op program. There are different schedules for different disciplines, and these schedules have been developed in consultation with the different programs to make sure that your co-op work terms are not impacting your overall degree completion or progression through your degree. So in this case, it shows your first work term happening the summer after you complete your second year, and it's interdispersed with 4 or 8 month work terms in your schedule, with you coming back and finishing your 4th and final year of study at UBC. So how does co-op work? So co-op works much in the same way as the real world job search process works. You do have to compete for those opportunities, meaning that the co-op program is not a placement program. I don't give away jobs to students. That would be lovely, but we don't place students in jobs. And also, jobs are not guaranteed. While we do our best and really hope that every student is able to secure an opportunity, that's just simply not possible, because at the end of the day, it's the employers and the industry that accepts students. So what happens is students will apply and compete for jobs. The employers will review applications, they'll decide which students they want to interview and then ultimately hire. And it's up to the students to be responsible for securing their position. So you do have to put in a lot of time and effort in order to be successful in your job search. But you're not going to be doing this alone. You're going to have the entire co-op program supporting you. You're going to have a dedicated advisor that you can go to help support you with your job search. And you're pretty free to work pretty much anywhere in the world that you would like to, and with anyone. So it's very, very flexible. There's also opportunities that go beyond the job itself. So in our co-op program, students have the ability to participate in work terms that are either 4, 8, 12, or 16 months in length. So it's really up to you, the student, to decide the length of the experience that you want to do or how many experiences you want to participate in. You also potentially have the option to broaden your experience by participating in a work term in an international location, as well as there's lots of research-based co-op positions on campus. So this is a great way for you to get experience. Potentially, if you're considering graduate studies, this is a great way to kind of feel out if research is for you. And lastly, a lot of our students end up returning to a previous co-op employer after graduation. So it's a great way for you to really quickly translate from a student into a full-time employee after graduation. As I mentioned earlier in the slide, in this presentation, all work term opportunities must be paid opportunities. So here's just a general snapshot of the monthly salary students earned over the last year based on discipline. And so these salaries, these are the average salaries. So some students do make less than this, and some students will make more than this, but on average, this is the monthly salary the different student groups earned. It's also important to remember that salary is a function of a variety of different factors. So it's also dependent on the industry that you're in. Some industries are more lucrative than others. It also depends on the geographic location that you're in. It also depends on the level of experience that you bring. So there's a lot of factors that go into the salary that you're offered. There are also costs in participating in the co-op program. So all students that join the co-op program, there are 2 fees that you do have to pay. The first fee is the workshop and administration fee, and the second fee is the co-op program fee. So the workshop and administration fee is a one-time fee that you pay upon admission into the co-op program. This covers the cost of the pre-employment training workshops that we require all students to participate in before they're eligible to begin their job search. And then the second fee is the co-op program fee or co-op tuition fee. So this is the fee that you're required to pay for every 4-month work term that you secure. The other thing that's important to note when you're as a co-op student, you're considered to be a full-time UBC student while you're on your work term. So even though you may be working in Toronto, for example, you're still considered to be a UBC student, and you are responsible for also paying your regular UBC student fees. The other really important factor about being a co-op student and being full-time status is it allows you to maintain and be eligible for scholarships as well as to be eligible for student loan funding, which is also very important. And so I know it's paid experience, but if you factor in the one-time workshop fee that you pay, and then if you complete the program by doing 4 4-month work terms, and you pay the co-op program fee, and if you look at how much money on average a student earns per month over 16 months, you have the potential to earn just over $67,000. So even if you have to pay some money in terms of your co-op tuition, you're still ending up way ahead of the game, making over $63,000. You may also be wondering, where have students worked? Students really have an opportunity to pretty much work anywhere. There's no pre-approved set of list of employers that you can work with. Any employer can be a co-op employer, provided they're willing to provide you with a technical work experience related to your degree program or career objectives. It's paid and supervised. And so here are some examples of some of our employer partners. These employers, have worked with us for a number of years. And as I mentioned, we have really strong relationships with a lot of these. These particular employers hire us or come back to us time and time again to recruit our students for a variety of reasons. They know if they come to UBC, they're going to get access to some really fantastic, enthusiastic, high-achieving students that are going to be bringing lots of energy and innovative ideas into their workplace. It also gives them that opportunity to mentor and train future professional engineers. And it also gives them the opportunity to screen and identify potential full-time employees. So for a lot of employers, they kind of view the co-op work term as like an extended interview. So it's a great opportunity to kind of get on a company's radar quite early. Okay, and there are also some benefits to just being in the co-op program. So all students who are in the co-op program have access in one-on-one coaching with their designated co-op career advisor. They'll have access to an exclusive co-op job board where they'll find hundreds of opportunities that are geared directly towards students completing their engineering degree. You'll get access to lots of different workshops to help support you in your job search and succeeding in the workplace. You'll also get access to our co-op learning resource hub, where there's lots of resources and supports to help you prepare for interviews, for example. And we also offer lots of networking events, so opportunities for you to actually meet a lot of our co-op employers. And so for some of our senior students who have been in the program for quite a bit of time, they'll get access to advanced workplace training, access to more professional assessments like our Strengths Finders, for example, and lots of other great benefits. Okay, if you would like to learn more about the co-op program, I really encourage you to check out our website. I know it's listed a number of pages in the resources section, so definitely check that out. I also want to encourage you to check out our Instagram. This is where we have a lot of our current students in the program sharing their experiences in the workplace. So it's a great way for you to kind of get a snapshot into what you might potentially be doing on your co-op.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. So now I'm going to invite on screen, we have 2 co-op students here with us today to share a little bit more about their experiences. I do see lots of great questions coming into the Q&A, so a reminder to keep adding your questions, upvote questions that you see that you would like answered. And especially if you have any questions about the student experience, we'll be able to address those as well. So keep adding those questions and we will be getting to those shortly. So first off, I'd like to introduce Anraj. So if you'd like to give a quick introduction about yourself, what program you study, your campus, and kind of anything fun that you want to share, you can do that now.
All right, thank you, Erin. Nice to meet you all. My name is Anuraj. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm in my year 4 of mechanical engineering at the Vancouver campus. I originally came from Toronto, Ontario, so moving to Vancouver was a bit of an adjustment, but I really don't regret it at all. UBC Vancouver has been very fun for me. It's taken me a lot of places through the co-op program specifically. I had like a pretty big interest in sustainable energy, whether that be electric vehicles, electric boats, and space hardware. I knew that when I wanted to pursue engineering, I wanted to kind of be in that field. And so some of my co-op positions that I've been at four different placements. One was like a nuclear reactor company in Ontario. One was Tesla in San Francisco, working mostly on the semi truck. That's in the photo you can see there. One was at Rocket Lab, working on space hardware that's sent to help navigate satellites. It's a little bit confusing, but and then the most recent co-op was at Arc Boats, which is a startup in Los Angeles that's trying to make the first electric boat. Beyond my co-op experiences, I've also been a part of UBC Air Design, so I can talk about any design team questions there. I was working mostly on the body of the aircraft, so like the main component of the airplane there. And last but not least, I'm also a residence advisor. So if any of you live on residence in first year, you might see me around. I'm actually at Totem Park right now, so you never know. Maybe you'll see me next year. But yeah, I'm super happy to be here today and talk more about the co-op program.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'll pass it over to Sydney now to do a quick introduction as well.
Hello, I'm Sydney. I go to school at UBC Okanagan, and I'm currently in my last year of civil engineering. I've done a couple of different co-op terms in lots of different places. My first one was on a construction site where I would fly in, fly out, 20 days on, 10 days off. I was living out of a motel in rural BC. And then I went on to work at Manitoba Hydro in another construction job for a summer. And then most recently, I did a full year of work in Edmonton, working for a geotechnical company, BGC Engineering. And I'm back for my last year. But last semester, I went on an international exchange. I went to the University of Glasgow. That's me in Scotland. Good picture. And I've also been a part of the Women in Engineering Club for the entire time I've been at the school. Yeah.
Thank you. Amazing. So as you can see from these two students, you can do co-op and so much more. I love that you've both been involved in so many other things like design teams, study abroad, everything that you mentioned. That's so cool to hear from. All right, so I have a few questions for both of you to get us started. Reminder, ask those questions to the Q&A, and after I ask a couple of questions that I have, we'll turn it over to the Q&A for all of you to get your questions answered. So Anraj, starting with you, how was the process of applying for jobs? I know that's a question we get a lot of students being very nervous about having to apply for jobs, but how did that go for you? How did the training that co-op provided help you to prepare for the application and the interview process and everything along the way?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Erin. I will say, like, for me, coming into co-op, I was, very nervous for sure. I got into co-op after like the summer after my first year, right, beginning of second year. So that's typically, no, sorry, I got in after, no, that sounds about right, after the first year. Sorry, it's been a while now. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking for sure. I think, interviews as a whole are nerve-wracking, but engineering interviews, for me, I found were a little bit more daunting. I remember my first interview that I ever did at a company. It was like some startup in BC that was doing battery work, and I was here preparing questions like, "Tell me about yourself," very generic behavioral questions. And then when I went into the interview, they started asking me like, "How does a battery work? Can you solve the circuit for me?" And I was like taken aback a bit. I was very shocked. I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know that I was actually gonna have to do technical questions." So, after that first interview experience, I reached out to my co-op advisor. We set up like a one-on-one meeting time, and I kind of just like debriefed the situation with them in that, oh, I had my first interview, it didn't go great. What could I do from there? And I found out to be really, really helpful. Speaking to a co-op advisor who's, seen so many different students, has helped many students get into the jobs that they want. I found it for me to be a really good outlet to just get feedback on what I can do, My co-op advisor was really nice to even do like mock interviews as well. So sometimes the advisor would pretend to be an interviewer and, I'd be like on the spot answering those questions. And that helped a lot. I feel like if it wasn't for my co-op advisor, I wouldn't have been able to get my first few co-op positions. And I think after I kind of got that mojo of like how to do interviews, it was a lot smoother from there. I think my third, fourth co-ops, the interview process was a lot smoother. I kind of knew what to expect. So I will say co-op helped me a lot, especially through the mock interviews that the co-op program offers. And kind of just one more tidbit, beyond like the mock interviews, the co-op program also has career peer coaches. So basically upper year students in their like fourth, fifth year who've already done co-op, you can also book mock interviews with them and kind of they can also be an outlet for you to navigate that career prospect too and that application process as a whole. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. So Sydney, I'll ask the next question to you. You mentioned some fairly unique co-op positions that you've been in. Is there anything that stands out from your co-op experience as being either the most fun or most interesting that you were a part of that you want to share a little bit more about?
Yeah, sure. I will say my first job that was so it was I got sent there like last minute out into the middle of nowhere. It was in Spence's Bridge, and I was staying in a motel with orange carpets, and I was living out of there, and it would be 20 days straight, and then I'd fly out for 10 days to go home. And it was just on and off like that all summer. And I was out in this construction site on Highway 6 or Highway 8. It was a highway that had washed away during a flood, and we were rebuilding it. So we were just like living right out on site. And one of the things we had to do was we were basically pulling stuff out of the river. And so my boss, Matt, he knew that I really wanted to do whatever I could do. They would always put me on the weirdest odd jobs. And so they had this helicopter that they brought in to take you to the other side of the river because you couldn't get there anymore. And then they drove over these excavators and they were like pulling a house out of a river. And so he was like, "We need someone to be over there to supervise us engineer. Why don't you go hop in the helicopter and go be the supervisor with me?" And I said, "Absolutely, yes, please." And so there was like about a week straight where every day I was in the helicopter and we were flying over to the other side. And I got my little hard hat on and I got to watch as they were yanking all this stuff out of the river, and I got to supervise. And that was something it was really a challenging co-op, just the atmosphere, even aside from the work, just the mindset you have to be in to do like those 12-hour days, 20 days straight. Like it's a lot. But it's something I'm glad I did because I got to do a lot of really cool stuff and a lot of really I went a lot of places and I got to fly in a lot of helicopters, and it definitely gave me like a different mindset, especially because I know engineers have a reputation of being office people who never know what the people on site are doing. So it was nice to like be there on the ground and like for my first experience to be seeing what the contractors are experiencing and what's going on. And that's definitely helped me to frame all my future positions to see it from, not just from behind a desk, but to really try and be practical with what I'm putting out there to the people working on site.
Amazing. Thank you for that insight. Maybe building off of that, Sydney, I'm not sure if you have an idea of exactly what you want to do once you graduate, but has doing those different types of co-op positions helped you decide on kind of what type of job you want once you graduate?
Absolutely. So that first one I did, I realized I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be on site for my entire life. So the next job I did with Manitoba Hydro, it was another construction job, but it was a mix of field work and office work. And then I realized, I think I just don't like construction. So then I had a little crisis. I was like, what am I doing here? Do I even like this? But then my next job was for a year in geotechnical engineering, and I absolutely loved it. And it was like a total reframe from what I thought like civil engineers could do, because you mostly hear about construction or design, and this was very different. And it was working in oil and gas, and it was a lot of I hiked around everywhere and I got to travel across the country doing kind of these site visits. I got to do a lot of computer skills and kind of interpretation, and I took on a lot of responsibility in that way. But it was very different from construction in that it was more about like analyzing what was there. I get to make my own interpretations. And because of that, like when I came back to school, I totally shifted. Like I started focusing on my electives to be on geotechnical courses. And now I'm hoping to return back to that same company when I graduate next year. And it totally like if I hadn't gotten to try out these different things, then I probably would still be going into construction, into something that I wouldn't know that I didn't like.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I love that it wasn't just being on site versus being in the office, because you said you still liked being on site, just not in the construction field, but in geotechnical instead. So I love to hear that. And Raj, similar, having been on so many different types of co-op positions that you shared a little bit more about, have you found what you want to do after you graduate? Do you have an idea of what area you want to be in, or how has co-op at least helped you with that decision?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Erin. Um, I'll say my co-op experience was quite unique. I think for me, I knew I wanted to do mechanical engineering, but I felt like mechanical engineering is such a broad field. There's so many different options that you can pursue. So I was like, if I'm in the co-op program, I want to make sure to make the most of it and just try as much as I can. So my first co-op was nuclear, then I went to electric vehicles, then I went to space. Not me going to space, but like working in space. Then I went to a startup in boats. And so you can see like my experiences were all kind of not really in the same field, but I found that very helpful because I think the biggest thing that co-op has shown me is more importantly, like what you don't like as opposed to what you do like, after graduation, right, you like typically find a full-time job and you're there for like 1 to 2 years. But I think the beautiful thing about co-op for me was I'm only at a company for about 4 months. So it's kind of like a trial run. If I like it, I'll maybe go more into it, but if I don't, I'll pivot. So I think from all the 4 experiences I've done, I think my interest at the moment, I hopefully after undergrad, I want to go more into the startup space. I found that, even though Tesla was great and it was a really big company, sometimes, at least for me personally, just being such a huge company, it's hard to kind of have a lot of impact driven work since there's just so many people and there's just so many engineers, so many things that are happening at once. So I really want to kind of stay in that startup space and hopefully, be like one of those founding engineers, like just starting a company from ground up and really learning, like really applying and just doing as much as I can through being, being in a very small team. But we'll see, things change, but I think that's where I want to be so far after graduation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to jump into all those great questions that you've all been submitting. A reminder to continue to upvote those because we will go with the most upvoted questions to get your answers to those. So the first question, Jennifer, I think you can help answer for me. So for engineering students, just a reminder of when can they start co-op? And then what are the options for co-op terms? So it looks like they're looking for kind of how many months at a time can they be on a co-op term?
Awesome. Thank you. So students can join the co-op program at 2 opportunities. They can join at the beginning of second year, or they can join at the beginning of their third year. Students have the option, if they want to, participate in a 16-month-long internship, which essentially would mean starting in May, right after your second year, and then potentially going for a whole year plus another 4 months to the following September. You could do that. Or you could do 1 8-month work term with one employer and then do 8 months with another employer. So it's really kind of up to the kind of experience the student wants to achieve or have. So both for our students here had a variety of opportunities in a variety of different industries and multiple employers. However, some students have done, worked at one company for their entire time in the co-op program, and that's totally fine too. So it's really up to you what you want your co-op to look like. And there's also a lot of flexibility. You might think you want to do only a 4-month term or an 8-month term, and then you get the option to extend at that company. If you really enjoy it and you want to go for another 8 months, you could extend it. So it is really, really flexible. So this is where you would want to work with your co-op career advisor to kind of see, like, this is something, could I do this? You know, what would be the impact on my academics? So yeah, it's really, really flexible.
Awesome, thank you. The next question that's been most upvoted is asking a little bit about research. So I know that I mentioned students can get involved in research. There's a lot of different ways. You could do it without any paid experience. There's the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Club on campus where you could just do research on your own. A lot of the design teams also kind of have a research sort of feel to them, but they're not necessarily official university research per se. But Jennifer, you mentioned that students can get co-op experience as research experience as well. Can you speak maybe a little bit to what that might look like?
Yeah, so there's a number of professors on campus that are also who also will hire undergraduate students to work in their research labs. And so sometimes a lot of these students, these opportunities might not necessarily be advertised, but sometimes students who are really interested in the work that particular professor is doing and want to learn more, oftentimes they will approach a professor and, you know, just ask, you know, is there an opportunity for me to potentially help out with a project in your lab for a work term? And so that's kind of where it starts, is that. And sometimes some research professors will advertise positions looking for specifically co-op students to help out on their research projects. There's also different scholarship opportunities. So there is NSERC, the National Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, also provides funding to help support students, undergraduate students doing research, typically on university campuses. I don't know if it happens anywhere else, but that's another avenue that students can do to get research opportunities on campus. And there's also lots of research institutes off campus that some of our students have participated in. So there may be research opportunities at BC Children's Hospital or St. Paul's Hospital. So there's also like a variety of research type related positions that students have participated in. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. The next question I'm going to pass to Sydney. So this one is asking, what sort of extra work do you have to do as a co-op student? So what sort of reports or assignments do you have to do? And how much do you actually have to keep track of what you were doing during the work term? So just from your experience, what has that looked like for you?
Yeah, so there is basically one co-op assignment. So like this is in terms of what we're doing for the co-op program or what you do
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, so in the program, you're given one assignment per term that you have to complete, and then you also have to get a review, basically, a review from your supervisor, and you have to make sure you have to be on them to make sure that they submit it. But the assignments themselves, they aren't really too crazy, especially like the first couple of them. A lot of them are very reflective, I would say. I'm talking kind of more about like your goals, how you're planning on meeting them, what you've learned. And then some of the later ones, I remember my last one I had to do was it was more of a report where I picked a topic of something that I had completed in my term, and then I wrote up a report of that. But even that wasn't, it was a lot of stuff that I had already done in the work, and it was more that I was kind of changing it to um, be something that specifically answered the questions that co-op wanted to see and kind of reframe it. So that was more of a summary of what I had been doing. But yeah, the co-op assignments aren't, it's not like class assignments where it's going to be taking up all of your life. It's kind of just supplementary so you can kind of reflect on what you've done.
Perfect, thank you. Just looking through a few more questions. So students asking if they get a job with a non-partner company, will they still have to pay the co-op fees? So yeah, students have 4 months between all of your school years. So you're in school from September through April, and then you have 4 months that you could do other courses in the summer. You could work, you could travel, do whatever you want. And so if you're not in the co-op program, you're not paying co-op fees. So you could still work and not pay co-op fees. But if you're in the co-op program, Jennifer, I'm going to assume that if they're working, they're probably doing a co-op term, or
what was that last part
So
that you just said?
if they're in the co-op program and they're doing a work term, it's probably a co-op work term that they would be paying the fees for.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
you only pay the fee when you're on your co-op work term. If you are unsuccessful in securing a work term, you don't have to pay the co-op program fee. So that's one nice thing. You access all the supports, and we don't charge you if you aren't successful in securing a work term.
Yeah. And I will mention for students who are interested that you can still work in addition to courses. So you can we have like a work learn program on campus. So students can do part-time work during the school year while they're in courses and things like that. So there are ways to work rather than just all of those co-op terms, that you can continue to make some money as a work learn student or in a part-time job or things like that. So you're not restricted by co-op to only be working those co-op terms ever, but that's definitely, co-op is a great way to make that great money throughout your degree and to really help finance your degree. There's a question, I don't know if you have an answer to this, Jennifer, but what percentage of students are matched into their job when they're, I think, first starting in the co-op program is the question.
Well, it kind of makes it sound like fresh out of the co-op program. So maybe as you're graduating, the co-op program. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not a statistic that we track. We don't actually follow our students once they leave the co-op program to actually know what percentage of our graduates actually end up, securing a job with a co-op employer. I can just speak to it anecdotally from just speaking with students. And I would say a large percentage of them end up going back to a previous co-op employer. Unfortunately, I don't have a number for you, but it is, pretty high. I mean, even Sydney mentioned that, she's probably going to go back to one of her co-op employers after graduation. So it's pretty common. Yeah.
Perfect. And Raj, from your experience, I'm going to ask this question kind of from your student experience. In the application process, did you find it was better to be open-minded in the kind of genre or type of job that you were applying for, or did you only apply to specific jobs that you were super interested in?
Oh, good question. I'll say for like my first few co-ops, like the first and second term, I was definitely a lot more open-minded about what company and like what field to pursue. Obviously I had like some interest, like, oh, I want to do energy and like something sustainable, but I wasn't super keen on what exactly that was. So, the first, second co-op, you're just coming out of second year. I feel like it's easier to just be a bit more flexible and kind of see where things work out and where what actually sticks in terms of like where you get your job placement. But I found that after my first two co-ops, I kind of knew what I didn't want to do, and that helped a lot in figuring out what I did want to do. And so after like my nuclear company placement, I was like, I want to work more on electrification of vehicles. And that's kind of when I started, applying to Tesla, the startup, and so that's when I was a bit more specific in like what co-op I want. So I think it's always better for your first few co-ops to just be a little bit more open-minded and just try different things out. I feel like it's the best time right now where it's only a 4-month commitment. So even if you don't like it, you can pivot pretty soon after. But I feel like after you get that first few experiences under your belt, the next few co-ops are a lot easier to get, and you can be a lot more intentional with what exactly you want.
Awesome, thank you. So the next question, Jennifer, again, more of a specific numbers question. So the question is, what percentage of engineering students apply to the co-op program get in? And then also how many get a job of their choice? So that second part might be hard, but.
Yeah, so essentially all students who meet our eligibility criteria are eligible to participate in the program. So essentially you have to be at the beginning of your second or third year of study and placed in an engineering discipline, and you have to have at least a 65% average from the previous academic year. So as long as you meet those criteria, you're eligible to participate in the program and will have to complete the pre-employment training in order to gain access to the job board. So basically, if you meet those criteria, you're guaranteed to get into the program. That's the easy part. The hard part now is like getting the job. And so in terms of percentage of students that are successful in securing employment, it definitely depends on how much experience you have. And it also depends on the term that you're searching for work. So the summer work term period is extremely competitive because you're competing for jobs against all students across the country. Summer students, co-op students, you name it, every student is looking for a summer job. So the summer work term period can be quite challenging. And if you are, a new student just joining the co-op program with little to no work experience, it's going to be challenging for you to secure that first work term. And that's where being flexible and being open to trying new things, maybe relocating to a different part of the country, maybe Spence's Bridge might be a great opportunity to potentially get a work term. Anything that's going to help you to get that first work experience. And then once you've got that first work experience, that's going to help you, get closer to your goal of the type of experiences that you want. So I would say, in the summer work term period, I think our typical employment rate is around 70% of students are successful. Obviously, students that have, very little experience will probably be lower than that, an overall employment rate. However, students that are, have some experience already will likely be more successful than that, but on average, about 70%. If you're looking for a work term in the fall or the winter terms, your odds are much higher because you're only competing with other students in co-op programs across Canada. Everyone else is not in co-op programs, have gone back to school. So there's a smaller competition pool. And there's still lots of opportunities out there. So generally, students who may be unsuccessful in securing a work term in summer have much better success in looking for an opportunity in the fall semester from September to December, or in the winter term from January to April. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, could I add on to that actually? Because someone here asked if you need the prior job experience. When I started, I had no connections. I didn't know any engineers. Everyone I seemed to talk to had like coding jobs before, and I was terrified about getting my first job. The only experience I had was working in a greenhouse, and my first co-op interview for the job I ended up getting, I told this story about how like I had to chase down a chicken in a greenhouse, and that was about like representative of my resiliency or whatever, and I ended up getting that job. So you don't need to have like this crazy, you don't need to have an engineering background. Your students, they know that they're hiring students. They don't expect you to know everything. So I think as long as you are open to trying new things and going out there and like being vulnerable and willing to learn, I think that's absolutely the main thing that they're looking for above, whether you've like built a car before or something.
Yes, so true. Thank you for adding that on. That's perfect. Just looking through, we have a few minutes left to answer maybe one or two more questions. So I'm just scanning through the questions to see if there are any other ones to answer. Again, if you have any that you want to upvote right now, you can do that. But I think we've answered a lot of the questions. Here's one. So if I want to do a minor in something that's different than engineering, which you definitely can do, we offer several different minors at both campuses, and do a co-op, how does that work? Would you be doing the courses for the minor in the summer or be doing a co-op? So with the minors that we have, you're going to build that into your degree. That may mean doing some courses in summer. That may mean adding on to the end of your degree or throughout your degree and extending your degree. Typically, if you are doing a minor, you're doing enough extra courses that are on top of the regular degree Now, minors are totally optional. You do not have to do a minor. The degree itself does not have a minor built in, but if you choose to do a minor and would like to do one of our minors available, you would add those courses to your degree. So typically if you're doing a minor, it's going to extend your degree anyways. And then as Jennifer mentioned, co-op would extend your degree by a year. In terms of the actual sequence of courses and work terms and everything like that, you would work with the co-op program depending on what engineering program that you're in to kind of determine that piece. But definitely totally possible. Something that students definitely do. We have a lot of students that love to get involved in all different sorts of things and add on all different types of things to their degree. So definitely possible. Jennifer, anything to add to that question? Oh, sorry, you're muted still.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess in terms of like minors, and anything else that you want to do with your program, it will just essentially extend it. And so that's where the flexibility with co-op comes in. So you can really work with your advisor and figure out when is the best timing to do your work terms around times that you need to do your minor courses or your regular courses. But it will extend it. So doing co-op will add 1 year, minor will probably add another term, maybe 2 terms, which also will give you the option to do a little bit more co-op if you want to. So there's lots of flexibility there. So yeah, I think that would just be sitting down with your advisor and figuring out like what's your plan for courses and how could you slot in co-op in there.
Perfect. And then the second question related to a minor as well, lots of interest in minors today. So again, minors are optional. It is not something that you have to do. You can choose to add a minor to your degree if you'd like to. You don't apply into a minor until later in your degree anyway. So you can start your degree and decide if that's something that you want part of it. But a minor is not going to be an engineering program. So you're in your engineering program and the minor is going to be a secondary area of study. It may be something like commerce. It may be something like arts or science. And so your co-op program would be related to your engineering degree, but not related to your minor. Though I'm sure many positions have, if you're doing something like English or writing, and there's lots of writing that happens in the workplace that you might not think of. So there's definitely other ways that your minor could be useful, but your co-op position is going to be related to your degree, which would be the Bachelor of Applied Science or your engineering degree. All right, I'm just getting through to see if there's any other last top questions that we should answer. I think there's a few questions about applications. So definitely check out our resources tab again to see any of that information related to applications, those deadlines, and we have lots of past events that we've had already this fall and some upcoming events that would be super useful for you. Quick, like in maybe 30 seconds or less, Anuraj and Sydney, I'm going to get you to give a piece of advice for a student considering co-op. What piece of advice would you have given yourself back when you were maybe in high school or in your first year thinking about co-op? So 30-second piece of advice. While you think about that, I'm going to jump to just a mention of our upcoming events. So we have the parent and supporters information night coming up next Friday. So if your parents want to come to a session specifically for them, they should check out that one. And then a list of all of our other upcoming events that we have listed here. If you're in the Okanagan region, we have an on-campus open house for the Okanagan coming up November 1st. So definitely check that out. You can register for more of our events through our website. I also want to give a shout out in our resources tab, and I will make that pop up for you right now so that you can see it. But we do also have the Women in Engineering Mentorship Program that is starting. Applications for that are due November 2nd. And so that is with our Women in Engineering Club on campus. Female identifying high school students are able to sign up for this mentorship program. We will get to meet either virtually or in person with current student mentors, as well as attend other events throughout the year, fostering the community of women in engineering. Again, you can access that link through the resources tab. All right, quick 30-second piece of advice from Anuraj and Sydney. Let's start with you, Anuraj.
Yeah, of course. I think if I could go back in time and give myself advice, I'd definitely be open to trying new things. I feel like it's very cliche, but I was going into mechanical like, oh, I want to just do one field, but I allowed myself to try different fields, but even different cities. Like I worked in Vancouver, I worked in Toronto, I worked in San Francisco, I worked in Los Angeles. So trying out, even different cities and not being afraid to just do everything I can within the co-op program. That allowed me to really learn so much, not from just a technical point of view, but also professionally and personally too. So just my advice is just try things, don't be afraid, and go from there.
Amazing. And Sydney.
Yeah, I would say my thing is kind of on a similar vein of don't put yourself in a box. If I had stuck to the plan that I had for what I wanted to do when I started co-op, I would probably be terribly unhappy. But instead, I tried, co-op is such a good way to try new things, especially for short periods of time. I've lived in a ton of different cities for this. I've tried jobs in different places. I've been so many places. I think it's the perfect way to just go out there and try new things and figure out what you like while you have the chance rather than trying to stick to something just because it was a part of your plan.
Amazing. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. Jennifer for presenting and your excellent insights. Anraj and Sydney for sharing more about your experiences. And then in the back end, we had Aslani and Juliana answering some of those Q&As. So thank you so much to everyone that was a part of this evening. Thank you for coming and joining and watching and learning all about the co-op program. I hope to see you at lots of our upcoming events. Have a great evening or day or morning from wherever you're joining us from, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.